What's Your Reel is a podcast where we interview with industry-leading creatives to learn their story about who they are, how they got there, and where they want to go. We invite you to join us on the journey as we roll their reel to learn how these creatives find their way to success. I'm one of your hosts, Andy, and this is Cam. Cam, who do we have on the show today?
It still amazes me that you did that off the dome. You have it written in front of you and you didn't even read it. Okay, Chris.
Cam.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Chris Tall, and I'm a lighting guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So okay. So here's the backstory. We know Chris because you are all things lighting at the church that we go to, the church that I work at. Technically, I'm supposed to oversee lighting, but really you oversee lighting, which helps me a lot. Thank you for that. But I think we're excited to hear about how you became this lighting guy in Vermont who is severely underused, I feel like, for the talent that you have. So I'm excited to learn about how you got there. So yeah, I think we should just jump right into it. Should we just jump right into it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So
Definitely.
Tell me, did you grow up in Vermont?
No, came in 78.
Where did you grow up?
New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to learn a lot of new things.
Couple different places. Yeah. And that's where it really started too. Yeah.
No way.
Yep.
Okay.
Freshman in high school is really the beginning of lighting and just any entertainment type related stuff, any entertainment production type work type stuff. And the odd part was it started freshman in high school, and our high school was big music program. The head of the music program loved jazz artists, and so beginning of my freshman year, there was Maynard Ferguson was coming to play there, and for the old guys who know who that is, and I don't remember the details, like why did I want to go? I don't remember, and I don't know why I didn't bother getting some money to buy a ticket, but I think it was sold out maybe or something. But I had the bright idea at the last minute to grab my sister's SR100 Minolta camera, and this is reflex cameras back then, right? And walk up to the front door of the auditorium in the high school and say, "Hey, I'm with the school paper. I need to go in and take pictures." They're like, "Okay."
Sick.
Walked in and grabbed a spot on the floor down front, close to the stage, and sat there for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, just clicking away. And if for those of you guys who know, reflex cameras, they roll the film. It's film, and you got to advance. And this is manual advance. You click and advance, and you go until you run out of film, and then you open it up and change the film and stuff. And if anyone was paying attention, I didn't have film in there, so I sat there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just clicking advancing, and enjoying the concert.
Oh my gosh.
But shortly after that, I hooked up with the lighting club, they called it, in the high school, and did lighting there for the 2 years I was there before we moved to Vermont.
The camera media pass has gotten me into some things too.
Oh, yeah.
So you, like most people, freshman year and this is high school or college?
High school.
High school. So freshman year of high school, I know I was scared of my own shadow going to freshman year of high school. I would never try to pull something like that and be like, oh, I'm just going to jump in here and do it. But that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Why do you think you made, I'm just curious about that one situation. I know that one situation is probably very insignificant to the rest of the story. However, I'm curious, were you always that way where it's if I want to go do something, I'm going to find a way to go and do it? Or was that just a spur of the moment decision?
That was probably spur of the moment, but it certainly ended up being part of my being in later years,
So that was a start. That wasn't
like Andy said, you grab a clipboard and a walkie-talkie and walk up to the back door of a venue like you belong there. You're probably going to get let in.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't do that, any guys.
That's fair enough. I have my only story that I can relate to that is I was 16 filming the Newsboys. Mm-hmm. We were at some concert in Pennsylvania, and I was there to film one of the openers, right? But I had this, and the only rule was not to go on stage. But I had this giant camera rig, on the gimbal, everything, microphones, all this stuff. I tried to make myself look older than I was. And that's my do whatever you want and get away with it badge. So I just walked right up on stage. Nobody said a thing. Got to film the Newsboys. It was awesome. Sometimes you got to just do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that you said that you joined the lighting club.
Yeah. So in school they called them clubs. You know, there was like dance club and lighting club and theater club and stuff like that. And really we ran all the lighting in the main. It was called an auditorium, but it was the theater, and it really was a theater. It wasn't a gymatorium or anything like that. And that meant we did lighting for whether it was a dance or an actual musical production or like the visiting concert artist, because we did a lot of that at that school. And movie nights. There was a movie club that showed movies, once a month, and we had to run the lights for them. So,
is that like what sparked that interest?
I'm not sure. I think it may have, I don't remember now. It may have been through connecting with the woman who ran the theater department. I think keyed in somehow. Maybe she spotted my little, shenanigans there with the concerts or something. And I think she was the one that connected and invited me into the lighting stuff. Yep. And it was good. The lighting at that level, at that time, with the technology we had, was somewhat minimal compared to what you can do now, and what we had available in the school. And this is old technology, big manual dimmers with big levers. Gosh forbid you wanted to do a blackout, because you'd hear it. If you were in the audience, you'd hear us slamming all these levers down. This is way before any kind of electronic dimming type stuff. So. I am 60 years old, so.
I was gonna say, I don't even, I can barely relate to the film camera where you're,
Yeah. But it meant creative stuff for like musicals and dance stuff like that, and another stuff was just lights on, lights off, event stuff. But I moved up. The family moved to Vermont in '78, so I naturally came because I was still in high school, and then I started doing lighting locally, and that was in Waitsfield. So we're in Waitsfield, and they had the Waitsfield Valley Players, so did a lot of jumped in there and did that for quite a number of years.
Was there a theater there, or what?
Yep.
Okay. So.
Yeah. The Valley Players over there, they use Oddfellows Hall. So they have the downstairs of the audience. It's still there. They still do it, and it's been through some renovations in recent years, I've heard. And so that was phase 2, if you will, of the career, was a stint there at the Oddfellows Hall, Valley Players.
And this is still like considered theatrical lighting.
That was all theatrical, yeah. Everything we did there was either drama type plays, non-musical, no singing, but they did an annual musical type event, full on. And these were always big in a small community like that. The musical is a big draw to a bunch of community people. So you have a bunch of people coming out of the woodwork to get together and do a big musical every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then back in the early days there in Waitsfield, was that just a volunteer opportunity or a part-time gig?
That was volunteer. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. No pay there.
just for fun. Yeah,
you just do it for the fun of it. Yep.
So explain to me what theatrical lighting even looks like back then. I mean, are you talking about, you got some front fills and then you have some I don't even know.
Oh yeah. Technology. Let's talk technology a little bit.
Let's get nerdy.
So you go back to those days, everything's what we call conventional fixtures. It's a fixture that the only thing you control is intensity. There's, the fixtures they're not like nowadays where the fixture can move, has motors in it and stuff like that, what we call automated fixtures. And so it's all, once you set it and focus it, then during the production, you're just controlling intensity. Now, you go a step further where, maybe lights that are backstage on the sides and things like that. If it's a dance stuff, you can re-gel them. So you literally had a gel, short for gelatin, in the front of it for color. And so that would be a common thing back in those days, because in a dance production, you have side lights that obviously you can get to because they're right there where you can reach them, versus lights up in up above or out over the audience.
So wait, are you saying that like people would physically and literally change gels?
Sure.
Like during the show?
Not that you would see, but like, so say you had a dance number that you wanted a certain color in there, and during that number, that color's in there, and then the next number you're not used, you purposely then like, okay, don't use those lights, or quickly you stay black for, while the dancers leave and come on, and they quickly change the gel for the next thing. Yeah. So really, really high tech. You got poor people backstage frantically getting the gel out of there and getting another one in there.
It's just so funny to me because like you think about like, so I have these 2 lights that are throwing pink at the walls right now.
Yeah.
Those LEDs do every color in the spectrum.
16 million colors.
Yeah.
That's what we say the combinations theoretically are. Yeah.
Flicker free up to 10,000 FPS.
Yep.
And
low
I
power.
Low power. I think the CRI,
low heat.
The CRI has got to be, I think, 99 on these two.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're ridiculously good, and I always think like I have such an appreciation because we use tools to make our lives easier as creative people trying to achieve a goal. For you, it's a look. For me, it's it's a lot of things in video, right? You think about lighting, you think about
it's a look, it's a mood,
actors, movement, framing, all that stuff, all to achieve a goal, and we have these tools to make it easier for us. And I always find it interesting when you go back and you talk about like changing gels, where now we just press a button and everything changes.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's just so cool to me that like, however many years we've been doing this sort of thing, it's all for the same goal. Just the technology has gotten so much better.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I often think, I'm like, man, would I love it as much if I had to change physical gels all the time and like,
if it's all you knew at the time,
right. And that must be it, right?
Yeah. And we would hang or rig a lot more fixtures, because if you wanted different things to change from places in the room that are inaccessible, then you got to hang 2 or 3 times as many fixtures. So you can use one set for one look, next set, and yeah.
Man.
And then they came out later on with color scrollers. So it was a device on the front that you'd tape a bunch of gel together and it could roll and but they're really noisy. So if it's a quiet, you'd hear a quiet theater, you hear the crinkling on the plastic.
Yeah.
So
when did what are those things called where it's like, I can't think of the technical term, but I'm thinking cookie cutter, and it's not a cookie cutter. But when you put like a pattern over a light.
When did those, the gobos?
Yes, gobos. Thank you.
Gobos were. Yeah, when did gobos come out? I mean, when did they really start to see them in the industry? So the early fixtures we worked with, like at the high school and then at the theater in Waitsfield. So all that technology of fixture, whether as far as the ones that are what we call the front light, the profile, or a fixture that can create a defined edge. So it's not a spotlight as in a follow spotlight where you're following the actor or the lead, but that the front type fixture we always think of in the lighting world that has the ability to you could put cutoffs, barn doors, and create straight lines on it and stuff like that. So early on, that technology, you'd pump 1,000 watts into this thing, it would have a 1,000-watt light bulb, and the amount of light that came out the front of it and landed on the stage was terrible. I mean, literally. So optically, in the way they worked, and then we're not going to get into the geometry of them, but one of the main revolutions in lighting that came about was the ETC Source 4, which we have those at church, and I mean everybody has them now, or they're knockoffs of them, and that was a huge change. And that also revolutionized the use of the gobo in there, because those other poorly optic fixtures made it much harder to put a gobo in there that could survive the temperature. That metal you do it, but it just didn't hold up as well as it did now once the ETC came out with the Source 4 fixture, because the design of the Source 4 and the reflector reflects only the visible light forward and lets the heat infrared light through the back of the glass. So the reflector and the fixture, purposely now separates out the heat part of the light from the visible part, and
that's crazy.
Prevents it from going forward into the fixture. Which also, you roll back, on the use of gels. The more bluish, the darker the gel, like a deep Congo blue or something you put in there, the gel didn't last long. You may change gels every day.
Wow.
You go through a 2-hour musical, you have to change out your blues because they start to get hot and not melt fade. Literally, but fade. Yeah, they change color. Yeah. So one of the first revolutions in the lighting world was that much better ellipsoidal front fixtures.
So I want at some point during this, I want to talk about your knowledge or fascination or whatever you want to call it about electricity, because you know way more than I feel like anybody I know does about electricity in general. But you're doing this stuff in Waitsfield in high school. Did you go to college, and what did you go to college for?
I didn't go to college right away. So I was doing the lighting. I'm pretty sure I started it in high school. I was doing it after high school over there in Waitsfield too. But by the time I graduated high school, I was not interested in college. Maybe the reason why I was comfortable with sneaking my way into that first concert was because my family upbringing, I had moved around a lot and lots of different schools and stuff. So I was kind of okay with being pushy, I guess. So I took 6 years off, not intentionally. I didn't say I'm going to take 6 years off, but I just didn't know I didn't want to go to college right away. And then between the theater stuff and some other work, and then I ended up in this research lab, and my sister Sue was the one who really helped me say, okay, you really should go back to school. And she was the one that, she's a teacher, and she was the one that pointed out or pinpointed VTC for me. And so 6 years later, I started going to VTC in Randolph and for electrical engineering.
Oh,
at the time, actually, electrical technology, two-year associate degree at VTC. Wow. So it was 6 years later before I did that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Late bloomer.
Well, I don't know what that makes me. But I guess I'm 5 years out of high school? Something like that?
Yeah, no rush.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I don't plan to go to college though.
It's different now.
Things are different now.
yeah, true.
So you just went and got an associate's?
Yeah, associate degree. Yep. Yeah, I did. And 6 years out, and I didn't do that great in high school, so I had to do 3 years. They provided these transition classes the first year to help you get back into the swing of things and fill in some gaps that you'd be missing. So when you start your freshman classes, you're not just flunking out of them right away.
You didn't do well in school?
I did great in like certain classes, but other ones, no. It was more of a lack of interest than anything.
Yeah. Sure.
That freshman year down in New Jersey, I was not doing well in a class, and they put me in a class for slow learners. And it wasn't until later on that I realized, well, it wasn't a slow learning problem. It was just a boring class. The first one was just boring, so I wasn't interested in it and not doing well.
That is super surprising.
Yeah.
You're like one of the smartest people I know. I didn't think that school would be a difficult thing for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm the total opposite. School is really easy for me, and I consider myself to be an idiot. So,
some people test well.
I can't do simple math. Anyway, okay, that's super interesting. So, was that electrical engineering idea at all influenced by, I like light, and that's a whole part of it, or or you were like, I just need a good job later, or what?
Well, the combination of all of them. I was already playing with electrical stuff, doing the lighting because you kind of had to. You're maybe wiring up plugs on your fixtures or fixing things, or just improving the wiring or expanding on what you have available in the theater. But then that work I was doing at the research lab involved more electronics, circuit board type stuff, and that was the key that Susie dialed in on, and she's like, you really should go to school for that stuff. And it turned out to be the right thing too, because once I was going to school and learning that and studying that type of stuff, it came real easy, and VTC was pretty easy to do, and as far as the degree program.
I think both VTC and that style of learning is because you spent some time away from school and kind of, we'll say, in the field, whatever, playing with circuit boards, is by the time you went to college, you understood the why of what you were doing. You had an application for it. It wasn't just these random math problems that meant nothing.
Yes.
But you were like, I can use this. It's
definitely
useful information.
Well, especially if you're going to school for something you're interested in, you have the motivation, because, I definitely saw fellow students who it was just the next thing to do after high school,
right.
And so they didn't vote as well. Yep. Oh, yeah.
What else were you into?
Ooh, I did some dance for a while. Took dance classes.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
You danced?
Oh yeah.
Oh my. That makes me so happy.
Back then it was jazz classes,
Wow,
jazz
that's
dance.
fantastic.
Yes, not ballet.
I was
or
expecting
tap.
the answer of, I rode dirt bikes because I did.
Well, I did. I thought we were sticking to just
Fixed
the
cars,
entertainment world, you know.
That's
so.
entertaining.
No, I dirt biked for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
I was just trying to bring us down a rabbit hole, but that's very interesting.
We could go off on a whole tangent about dirt bikes.
Oh,
but
I know we could.
another time.
Then the podcast will be too long.
Yeah.
All right. So college, did you ever, I mean, have you ever done lighting as a job?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
In the later years. Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting to that.
Sure.
Okay. So what happens
Oh, yeah.
after college?
So after VTC, I had interviewed right as you're finishing, you know, in the springtime, I'd interviewed with a company called Advanced Animations, down in Stockbridge, and, I interviewed with them, but they weren't ready to hire yet. And then I get a call, late summer, in '89, late summer. And, they're like, hey, can you, you know, we have this problem here. So you said you do AutoCAD. We're trying to design these gears in AutoCAD, and they're not just regular gears. They need to be like cartoony gears, you know, but yet they still got to work and stuff. And they said, so is that something you can do? And this was like a Monday, you know, and I said, yeah, no problem. Sure, I can do that. I had no idea how to do it. So
Sweet.
I said, we'll get together Friday. So Tuesday, I hoofed it back over to VTC to Ken Moody, I think was who it was, head of the mechanical. And I go to Ken Moody because I just knew him from being around school there. And I said, how do I draw gears in AutoCAD, you know? And he's like, oh, it's easy. And he showed me how to do it. And so I met with them Friday and showed them how to do it. And then they offered me a job. And so for the next about 6.5 years, I worked for them. And we primarily built robotic animations, physically characters, not computer graphic.
Okay.
So robotic characters for live entertainment stuff. So it's like Universal Studios, Disney, to name the ones that we know of that we're familiar with, but then lots of other ones that you just aren't ones that are household names. Other theme parks like that.
You were doing this where? Here?
This down in Stockbridge, Vermont. So
Oh, wow.
hit Bethel exit and then head out on 107. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
What does that look like? Because I have a vision of AutoCAD, but that's like from 2011.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
back in '89, what does AutoCAD look like to you to make
gosh.
an animation? This sounds ridiculous.
Well, so the AutoCAD part was just to cut. So that particular project was, it was a clock on a wall, but it was like clock art. So and it was like Rube Goldberg-y looking thing. So it had to have all these gears turning and clingy clang and ball rolling down and going back up kind of stuff, you know, or it's not Rube Goldberg. What do you call that one? You know, the kinetic sculpture. Sorry.
Okay.
So it was like a kinetic sculpture for that one. The other stuff, I mean, we used AutoCAD for some design work, but we used lots of other stuff besides that.
Was that a digital format, or was that like things to actually like draw on a blueprint?
Well, it depends. So at the things we created, like one of the last big things I worked on was a large dragon for MGM. So a live stage show, and we had to build a dragon that came from the storyline of Morgana and King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table story. So it was that literal story. And so you had some guideline for what we were creating. So the artists take care of, what does it need to look like? And then it works. It's all the departments in the shop build it from the steel structure with the hydraulics, silicon skins and all that stuff. And then we apply the controls to the hydraulics and all the motions and things like that. And so, yep. Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
And some of that, and periodically there was some lighting in there, but a lot of it was more the robotic controls. And of course, our department had to go on site and program it and make it
animatronic.
Yeah, total animatronics. Yep,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's gnarly. I can't imagine. You're gonna laugh at me. I can't imagine being in a job myself where I'm literally being paid to make things that don't exist. Yet that would make me so stressed out, which I guess is what I do in a way, but also not physically.
You're
you know
going
what
to
I
make
mean?
a robotic dragon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Yep. I'm the high school, paper photographer.
But you build up to it. So we'd already done lots of other things. So it's just bringing more stuff together on that one. And that was one of the larger projects we ever did. So we had other smaller ones. Fievel Cat down at Universal Studios, big from the Fievel American Tales things.
I feel like you've worked just a lot of interesting jobs.
So far.
Okay. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So I did that till 95 when I was getting engaged, and we were like, well, do we live down in Stockbridge or live up this way? And so I was getting a little burnt out anyway. Even at the time I was doing it, my friends were always like, it's the greatest job. You get to do all these fun things, but when you're doing it and you're doing it a lot of hours a week, I tell people it's like your favorite ice cream, and you love ice cream, but you have to eat a half gallon every night. And after a while, it's not your favorite ice cream anymore. So, so I was getting burnt out. So I moved up here, and it was really when at church, when Ron came and we started doing things like Christmas Spectacular, that the next phase of the lighting career really kicked in. And so it was the first year, 2001, was our first spectacular, if I'm correct. He'll correct us if we're not.
Yeah, probably.
Sounds right.
I know.
and so I hadn't done moving lights yet. So that's really the next. The industry had already gone to moving lights. Verilight did the revolutionary thing with the moving light, and so but it was still very early in the cycle of where we are now in moving lights and automated lighting programming and that type of stuff. So at the time, what was available was the Hog console, and it was called the Hog 2. And it was really their first console, mainstream console. And so I never seen one before, never heard of it, had never even gotten close to, being in the same room as one. So we said, well, Ron and I said, let's go for it. Well, we rented a bunch of gear out of Boston, including a console and a person to come up and spend a day teaching me how to use it. And so that was my introduction to automated lighting programming. Is what it's called.
How'd you get involved with lighting with the church?
Well, so in 95, I got married, and I was already, Christian and going to church and stuff. And so my wife was already going there, and so Carmen was already going there, and I was coming up from Randolph. And so we started going there, and naturally I just migrated towards the tech stuff and and the lighting in particular. And it didn't help that at the time, so the room was all controlled by the relay stuff. So a lot of the rooms you go to in the church, there's a little toggle switch on the wall, and you can toggle the lights on and off. Well, and another part of the building is the relay that controls that. Well, in the sanctuary, you guys are too young to remember this, I'm sure, but all the lighting in the sanctuary was controlled by relays. And the problem was the relays weren't somewhere else in the building. They were right off to the left in the room. And you could hear all the relays going clack, 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 and to that point where, to turn off all the house lights, you had to turn this thing and go click, 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 and I hear all the relays and all the lights and it was on off. It wasn't dimming. It was,
right.
The lights just, if you wanted to turn the lights off in the room for to look at a video or something, it was disturbing to me as a lighting guy. So, so I that was one of my first early things there was heading up, hey, let's redesign the equipment here and get some better control of it, more smooth control of it.
So was that the modern day auditorium that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember when that was built. I guess, yes, it was definitely before 2001, come to think of it. But I don't remember the dates either. It's just 80s, I think, somewhere in mid-80s. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the history of it, but I knew,
it was, the
video cafe.
That part of the building first, and then it grew down to the larger part,
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. What were you doing for work at this time? Because you went from robotics to...
Yeah, so when I came up moved up here to when we got married, I got a job at NRG Systems over in Heinsberg, doing tech electrical stuff. And also then in 96, started going to UVM for my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, because I had the 2-year associate from VTC. And I did the silliest thing you ever do is you spend 9 years of continuing ed night school to get your 4-year degree.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
In the middle of it, twin daughters and just life and full-time work and
what made you want to
spectaculars and Easters. And
what made you want to get that degree?
Just to learn more and to just better position myself in the work world, work market.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. And that was from UVM.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how do you think that, because you're always talking to me when it comes to lighting, you're always talking to me about crap that I don't understand. Mainly being electrical stuff, because you're like, oh, like, watch, you only have this much whatever on a circuit before you blow something.
Yeah.
Like, especially over at North Ave, where the booth is one thing away
one
from
circuit,
exploding the whole building.
One hiccup.
Yeah. But how has that knowledge, and it sounds like that's what you had been doing for work. I mean, I don't know well, that's still what you do. Is you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so how has that influenced your lighting? Because you have what you have, which is so interesting, is you have this giant base knowledge of the technical side of things. And how does that enable the creativity of lighting?
Yeah,
the artsy side.
Yeah, and it for me it works well because you can do lighting, design lighting, program lighting, and not really know much about the electrical side, especially depending on the group of people you're with. You can have other people that take care of that for you, but it's helped me a lot because a good example of what you're asking, Cam, is on a lot of the spectaculars we did. On a lot of it, we just designed some of our own stuff. We had one spectacular where we're like, we want drumsticks that light up. So I'm like, fine. I designed a drumstick with, wireless, so it batteries, wireless. I could control it from the console, and turn them on and off, as part of just another light on stage, but yet they were battery powered and obviously no wires or anything. And so
you made drumsticks that did that?
Yeah.
Out of what?
Well, the stick itself was actually, the stick itself, what I ended up going with is the extruded plastic that makes up a screwdriver handle. Mm-hmm. So a screwdriver handle starts out as one long extruded plastic piece that then gets cut, turned to have the parts of it that are smooth, and the rest of it has the little ridges you grab onto, and then they put a hole in the end and put the blade in and stuff like that. So that's why I tried different plastics, and that's the one that could survive for the most part. Chris was able to break one of them.
Okay, solid.
Yes. But I couldn't leave them, that big. I had to turn them down to make them, more like a drumstick and stuff. So, so you just, you hollow out the backside and stick a circuit board in there with some LEDs on it and a battery and some wireless stuff, and sure.
Whatever happened to those?
I still have them. They're in my
Why don't we still use them? We should use those sometime.
They're big and clunky.
Yeah, but that would be awesome. It sounds
Break
so cool.
those bad boys out.
Yeah.
I like the spectacular of the LED suits.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh,
yeah,
that was
the
awesome.
suits.
Jumpsuits with
gosh.
What kind of wire? Is that just luminescent wire?
Yeah, well, I don't remember the name of that, but that was very early. That was all that was really available early on because LEDs were not quite readily available yet to do the, because obviously now you've seen lots of productions with suits and now video, of small video wall maps onto suits, right?
It's crazy.
Okay. So at the time though, I can't remember, cool neon, I think it was called. Yeah. But the problem is it's really this luminescent wire. It's a wire, but with luminescent stuff in it that is triggered by a high voltage.
Okay.
So the annoying little pack, it's kind of hard to control it wirelessly because it's putting out some high voltage, which kind of messed with the wireless. So it took a lot of work to get it to work.
Nice.
Those are right on the edge of working. That was a typical one, yeah.
Getting high voltage out of a low voltage system.
Yeah, Chris got electrocuted on one of them.
Hot suit.
I'm getting electrocuted.
Oh,
Yes.
no. Well,
Yeah.
okay. What were we talking about earlier? Where I was like, do you just like get tasks and try to make them work?
Yeah, exactly.
I forget what we were talking about,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it sounds like the answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, the marrying of being electrical. Well, I mean, I have 2 degrees in electrical engineering and technology, so hopefully I learned some of that and apply it now.
Yeah, right. Well,
yes,
you do apply.
Yeah.
Where is like the creative side come into it for you? Like, were you at all like into? I mean, I guess other than the theatrical stuff, Well, even if you were into dancing,
Yeah.
that's the right idea.
Choreography.
And back in those days, I was, when I was at the Valley Players, I was also taking dance classes, and then we would do, recitals a couple times a year. So of course I do the lighting also for the recital.
Nice.
When you're young, you can do so much, But so in the lighting world, what's common to talk about in the lighting world. So if you picked up any current rag that you would read about lighting stuff, there's classifications of lighting. So we have theatrical type lighting. So in a theatrical setting, you have a play that's really structured. It's got scene one, act one, scene one, that type of stuff, and you really structure everything cue to cue. So you've planned it ahead, you've scripted it all ahead, and then you just execute it. And then you have other things that are like a festival, music festival, for instance. And so in lighting that, especially a lot of the ones I do or have done, is you may not even have ever heard the band before. You may not have time. Most of them, you may not have time to even pull up the band and at home before you get there to listen what style of music they are or what they're likely to play. And so you would then set up the lighting console to where you're playing it like an instrument, and they call that busking. Mm-hmm. So you have the theatrical, you have the festival type work, which is it's a music concert, a festival, and then we have corporate lighting. So that may be literally meetings, big company having a meeting in ballrooms with stage and lights and stuff, or it's a fundraiser. Large fundraiser. We do lots of those done in the area, and worked a lot of those. And then there's one-off special events and weddings and things like that. And you hear wedding, there can be some pretty elaborate audio video lighting setups on weddings as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Where did Dark Star come into play?
Yep. So
not where, when?
Yeah.
I should ask.
So 2001, we did the first spectacular, and then I don't remember the year when we first started doing some larger Easters. I think we may actually have done the first special Easter thing before the first spectacular, and we did that in the gym. But then Easter grew to the Champlain Valley Expo. Mm-hmm. And what was funny was the company, one of the companies we were renting some other stuff from, said, we can also we have some lights too. We can rent. And I was bringing stuff out of Boston at the time. We'd done a few events, spectaculars and stuff, and rented stuff out of Boston, which means either we had to pay them to bring it up and back, or we had to go get it and bring it back. So when the local company said, "Hey, we also rent some light stuff," so I was like, "Yeah, I'll get some of the equipment from you to minimize the Boston stuff." And so we're setting it up at the expo, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, there's a label on here that says Dark Star, Heinsberg, Vermont." I'm like, "Wait a minute." So it's common in the rental world. So in the companies that rent, they'll do a re-rent, and so while I may say I'm offering, "Hey, by the way, I rent lights to you, Cam," what I'm really doing is going over here and getting them from one of my partner company I partner with, and so that's how I learned about Dark Star.
Oh wow!
And so then the next event, I believe that was then a spectacular, because that was an Easter at the expo. Then the next spectacular, I had gone and met with them, and then we were exclusively renting from them from then on. And then that relationship with them parlayed into me doing work with them on the side.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, that's a funny way to get there.
Yeah. Well,
I saw their sticker on a piece of equipment.
Yeah. Well, that's why you put your sticker on your equipment, so people see who owns it.
I rented from somebody else.
Yeah,
I got upcharged for.
Yeah. and I think that's normal in any industry. Whether I talk to someone, at an event or a conference or something, and I learn about something else, and so you make connections and put them together. Yep, definitely.
So you start working a little bit with Dark Star.
Yep.
That's just on the side. That's like bonus work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just something fun to do.
Yeah, like Bane. Good old Bane. So
good old Bane.
Back when I used to work for a production company locally, Chris and I would run into each other at the same gig out in Mount Washington.
Mount Washington Hotel.
And that was the most ridiculous shoot of the year. But we got really good dinner. So it was totally worth it. Literally like
all the lobster you can eat.
This company would have giant company.
Bain Consulting.
Yeah. Who owns that?
So there's Bain General, and then Bain has different divisions, as I understand this. The minimal I know. Then so you have Bain Capital. So their capital is in financing type stuff, and then another division is Bain Consulting, and Bain Consulting has many offices around the world. And Darkstar, for a number of years, it kind of stopped with COVID, obviously, would be the production company for the annual meeting for the Boston office and the New York office. And so we were always running into each other at the Boston event. Yeah. So the Boston team would come up to the Mount Washington Hotel. Yeah. For their summer event, they called it.
Yeah. But anyway, the whole gig was the employees would rewrite the lyrics to popular songs.
Every song.
To all be about Bain and working at the company. And it was like the most outrageous. You were doing lights probably on the fly because you had never heard
that was busking.
And I was just getting covered in alcohol, standing at the front trying to film it all.
And this is 700 employees.
Yeah, there. It was ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah, ballroom with 700 people in it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure how it worked is they had like a whole weekend of meetings, and then I would come up for the last night.
Well, there was only one date for them, really.
Oh, really?
So you would be there Thursday of the event.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we would get there Tuesday morning. We load in Tuesday. We finish setting up Wednesday, do rehearsals. So their production team. So they every year they rotate it. They rotate on a 2-year schedule. Okay. So their employees are work their rotation into being the people behind the scenes on their side of things. And so they'd be there Wednesday to make sure everything's working right and rehearsals for their type of stuff. And then the bulk of the employees, the 700 employees, would bus up Thursday morning, get there late morning, have lunch, and then we'd have all the meetings in the afternoon. That's all their business time for their meetings. And then like 3:30, 4 o'clock, they'd go off and do fun stuff for a while. Well, we flipped the room from meeting to the evening event stuff. Yeah. And that's primarily what you saw.
So was like a concert deal. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, yeah. So the room would have 700 seats in it for the early part of the day, and then that would all come out and turn into bar and seatings and dance floor and band stuff. And they have their own band, too. That was that's them playing all those Weird Al Yankovic songs.
Oh, my gosh. It was the most outrageous. Like, every time I hear a song from that stupid event, I hear the Bain lyrics.
Yes.
I don't hear the actual
Everybody
song anymore.
says that about that.
Oh, it's catchy.
Oh, yes.
They
we love Bain. We love it.
They literally nail it every single time. Yes. Anyway, sorry, small tangent, but that was a fun gig that we always used to run into each other at.
But that's a good one to play off of where, so you do lighting or you do audio or you do video. What does that mean? Well, that means, and in that event, luckily we had a couple days to get in and get set up and be prepared for it. Whereas other times, and of course, we're traveling, it's a couple hours, let's say, from here. So now you got to make sure you've got everything with you. So whether you're the lighting, audio, or video guy, you're prepared and thinking ahead about all the things you might need, plus extra things just to be in case, just in case. But we've had and still do lots of events that are a one-day event. And it's not even it's not small setup either. You're loading in the morning, ready in the afternoon, talents need to rehearse in the afternoon, and then concert at night, and then load back out too.
Yeah. And then that's to happen.
And that's and that's the other thing, because you do them too.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of pressure when a one day in and out is normal in the entertainment industry. So, we go see shows at the Flynn around here or any other venue. There, a lot of times, most of those touring shows have come in that morning. There's some of them come in the day before, at the Flynn, but a lot of them are in that day and back out that night. And it's easy to do when everything works. It's when the equipment stops working gets pretty difficult.
Which is always how it goes.
Yeah. Well, and so earlier we were talking about, now we have the technology, the light, and everything. So it was easier back in the day when it was just an incandescent fixture and some dimmers. There wasn't much to break. But now, when the complexity we have, so lighting, a number of years ago, lighting went digital, as we call it. That automated fixture back in 2001, the Hog 2 console. Lighting went digital way before a lot of other stuff. So audio, made the change to digital much more recently. And so the complexity grows a lot in the system now when you add that level to that system.
Were you able to like learn a lot when you started working with Darkstar?
Yep.
Just being able to have all of these, because from my understanding, I feel like they keep pretty updated with like what's new, what's coming in as far as like tech goes.
Yeah.
Was that like a good opportunity to be able to like play with new toys?
Yeah,
essentially.
And very early on, like we both kind of cultivated that relationship of being able to go there and hands-on on the equipment ahead of time, you know. And that's just my personal preference too, is that I don't want to wait till I get to the venue to be making sure something works. I'm a little nuts about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to find out it doesn't work the way I think it does. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest project or gig is that you've worked on, and why was it the biggest?
Biggest in what way?
I mean, like, I mean, like, technically, like, biggest is not like attendance, but as far as production, like the biggest production that you've been a part of, and maybe that's lighting wise, maybe that's all encompassing. Yeah,
there's several that come to mind, and they're all in the area here. We've done a lot of larger productions, either like Mount Washington or in the Boston area itself, in the hotels there and ballrooms. But two of the larger ones were here in town. One of them was a fundraiser at the Champlain Valley Expo. It was for UVM Medical School. And just the sheer volume of technology that we were providing in that room. So the larger room, I can't remember if it's north or south, which one's the larger one, but the larger room, and it was full. So I think we had 700 guests for that one. So you have part of the room is all dinner seating with a large stage with a large video wall behind it. And so all that seating for 700 had to have down lighting on the tables. So we put a gobo in. It's a breakup, kind of a leaf, a tree. You can't tell what the pattern is, but it's a breakup pattern to downlight all the tables. So you have a ton of just lighting that's meant to be not really noticed and seen, but just providing that nice little light on all the tables. And then the other half of the room is dance floor, band, lighting for that, a bar area, and this one was neat. Not only did so I was taking care of lighting the bar area, but not the bar top. We did 4 video projectors to project images onto the bar top. So again, it's a square bar where the bar surface was a couple feet wide.
Yeah, right.
With video like fish swimming and things like that projected onto the bar surface.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right. So and then lots of other stuff in the room too. And so just the sheer scope and volume, and so big. To answer your question on big as in a lot of stuff all in one room going on at the same time, nothing stepping on each other, technology-wise, and then the importance of making it all work for the client, obviously, for something like that, a large fundraiser.
Yeah, like, one, it's just crazy to me that somebody came up with let's make fish swim on the bar top. But also, the other level of that is it reminds me a little bit, like when you walk into a room, and I've been starting to think about this more, in like live production, all this stuff, like people are like, the lighting for the concert, let's say, was so good, but it's like there's lighting everywhere.
Yeah,
like when you come in, what I mean? There's so much, like, for instance, it's like you say, we had, the gobos with the lights over the tables, all this stuff. And it's like, why wouldn't you just turn the house lights on? Well, it's because it kills the vibe.
And most of these venues aren't meant for doing that type of stuff in. So you have these just, normal fluorescent fixtures in a space like that for the soccer fields that they put in there most of the time. It's not anything pleasing. And so the other large event, now this one was definitely the largest as far as just scope of equipment and things, was Patrick Gym for the last Easter event we did there. And what made that one large was a combination of things. One of the most important ones was we had done a number of Easters there and dealt with the house lights again. Those are all fluorescent, the ones that are on, the same ones that are on when they play basketball, to give you an idea. So they're meant to be high output, the right color temperature and the high CRI, so that now for the basketball players to play. And so you could play with the switches and some breakering, as we always did the years before, to limit it down to just some of them so they're not so annoying. But we really I desired to be able to turn all that off but still have house lights. So that year we rigged more trusses. So normally you start the stage, you have some upstage truss, some downstage for the front lights, and then we rigged more layers of truss working back in the house and put fixtures up on the bleachers in the back of the room, and we provided all our own LED, RGB house lighting, besides wall washes on the sides. So not only did we have the immense number of fixtures to cover the stage, because that stage was huge. We were doing a 60-foot wide stage, I believe. A lot
Sounds about right.
It was a large stage.
So cool.
Plus all the backdrop behind it, because we did the fiber optic curtains. We're still doing fiber optic curtains then, and things like that. The video walls and stuff.
Forgot about fiber optic curtains, dude.
That was heavy, but so cool.
Yeah. So lighting volume wise, there was a lot of lighting just to cover the stage. Plus then we added all the lighting for the room stuff. And, one measure we kind of go by was like, how many, because to hang all that stuff, you have to use what's called a chain motor. You grab the hook, go up on a lift up to the ceiling, hook it on, and then the motor climbs itself up the chain and you hook on the truss and brings it up with it. So that was 31 motor picks, my recollection. So there was 31 points, and I mean, unless you do the work, this kind of work, I don't know if you can appreciate that.
That's a lot of time on a lift.
Yes. And so good point. That load in on that event, I have time lapse of it. That's a 1 day load in.
Yeah.
So we start like 7:30 in the morning on that load in, and by around 5:30, most people have gone. It's me and one person helping me with lighting and a couple sound people sound checking, getting ready for rehearsal Saturday morning. But with a huge load in. But what makes those work is there's a lot of pre-production work done at Dark Star. Right. So we do a lot to design what we need and test ahead of time, and then they prepare a lot of it's called pre-rig truss, a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff is pre-done to minimize the in time.
A little more plug and play.
But it's still a huge amount of equipment to bring in multiple trucks, for the in, and a lot of stuff to get all working in, one short time. Plus you have to make room for the tent company the stage company to bring in the stage and set the stage up at the same time you're putting
all the chairs,
putting lights and audio up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
Wow,
yeah.
That sounds like a
and
nightmare.
Then remember, well, let's say you guys won't remember, it was like 3 or 4 years before that, we did upstage. Scott wanted a giant wall. The theme was walls that year, walls that we put up in our lives and things like that. So we rigged a giant wall that would rise upstage and live. Not just already there.
Right.
So that year we had to rent special chain motors that you can control speed and position on those, because the normal chain motor goes up real slow and it's noisy. So
I just remember me being like a idiot my whole life. I would just get so excited because the biggest difference for me between normal church and church at the gym or whatever was we would have HD cameras. And I freaked out. But it's funny, the last Easter we did at the gym was my first time on the team.
Oh, cool.
On the video team.
Yeah.
Andy's brother got sick.
Yeah.
And Andy called me last second.
Yeah.
And I came up with the stupidest rig ever. I just wanted to look cool, I think. I put like a handy cam on a glide cam with a heavy SDI wire coming off of it. So the glide cam did nothing. It was hilarious. But
gave you something to hold on to.
Oh, yeah. But that was my intro into it. Those were fun.
Yeah.
Those were fun.
Yeah.
Those were fun. But
and there's a great opportunity for creativity on those events in the planning stages, and then also in the execution, when we're actually there and programming the looks and everything. It's a lot of fun to, be able to, and nowadays sit at the console and just, make lights move without having to get on ladders.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know for me and what I do with video and stuff, like nothing ever goes to plan. Meaning I show up at a location and I have a plan, and then I usually just toss it in the trash and then start. You know what I mean? Do you ever have, or can you talk about that process at all? Because I'm sure, an assumption here, but I'm assuming you have moments where you have a plan, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do with the stage. This is a look that's going to be. And then you get there in the environment, hear the song, whatever. And you're like, I'm throwing that away.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, there's different levels of that. There's the level of this should work, and then you get there and it just doesn't work. You know,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm typically talking about.
And by work, like early on, when Ron and I tried something, we're like, well, I want to do stars on the ceiling. So so we bought the gobo that's basically pinholes in the darn thing, you know, so that you know, you just get little dots of light, but it doesn't work. You know, you get blobs of light on the ceiling, and it's like, that doesn't work. So we had to, you know, back up and punt with something else on that one, you know. So a lot of it you learn, you know, by your mistakes, and so as you go on, the more tricks you learn, or you also learn too. Like on that example is, I should probably try that ahead of time and see if it looks good instead of waiting till the day that you're coming in with it. There's other times where just equipment doesn't work, so that's a, you know, we're gonna put all these fixtures here, we're gonna use them in this way, and then some of them just don't work. They got damaged in trucking there, things just break. It doesn't matter. So now you gotta punt on the fly, and make what you do have work. The good thing is, it's only me and one or two other people that know what we wanted to do. Nobody else knows what we were hoping to do. So as long as what we do looks okay, then we're okay. Another good example of just being prepared was, we were doing an in down at one of the ballrooms in Boston, and we knew we had it was a 1-day thing, and we were going in the morning to get ready for this high profile fundraiser type event. We stayed the night before just outside of town in Somerville, so that we could be there fresh and early in the morning. We were there fresh and early in the morning, only to find out there was another event going on in the room.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So quickly, you know, talking with those event people, we're like, first off, when is this event done?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not, I mean, we're the production company. We're just hired, you know, as by the people actually doing the event, you know. And so at least, luckily, that event ended at noon.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that event ended at noon.
Yeah, right.
You know, we're supposed to be, you know, moving into that space at like 7:30 in the morning, and you know, we're supposed to be ready for, you know, like a 5 or 6 o'clock night, you know, start. So we went from having, you know, 7:30 to 5 o'clock to having, now they were done at noon, which meant that's when they started. They had a full audio video lighting setup in the room.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So they had to start leaving. And they're leaving out the same hallways and loading dock we're trying to come in.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a disaster.
And of all times, I had so in the lighting world, so the consoles, Hog has a PC version. Most manufacturers now have a PC version of their stuff. I'm sure audio and other guys do too, video stuff. So you can, and this isn't just simulated. I can build lots of stuff now and pre-build show stuff. That event was the first time that I said, oh, you know, I'm going to just, normally I do it on site. I'm just going to try pre-building a bunch of stuff and see how it goes when I get on site, if how much of it translates well and how much I got to just quickly reprogram.
Yeah.
Right. So I just guessed at a ton of stuff. My intensities, positions, colors, beam stuff and everything. Guessed at it. Luckily I did, because
yeah, right.
Instead of having, you know, 4 hours, I had literally had about 45 minutes.
Oh.
And luckily 96% of it worked fine. I just had to touch up a bunch of things and touch up a bunch of things and go. And so just a confluence of being prepared worked out well on that one.
Can I take a left turn, Andy, or do you have something to talk about?
I'm making a list of questions, but I suppose we can left.
Well, it's a hard left.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you're gonna forget it, or should you
hold on,
write it down, or come back to it?
When did your obsession with RC planes come into play?
Oh, good question.
There's a left. Yeah,
that's a left.
I told you it was a left.
Okay, about 8 years ago.
Okay,
but I when I was a kid, I played with U-line, you know, the little handle with 2 strings and you fly around a circle and stuff.
Yep.
So I had the little, they were basically a diesel, but it's a nitro, we call it, engines, little Cox engines back then. But then it was like 8 or 9 years ago when you started seeing, you could see it in the stores and people around you would buy the little helicopters with the little control, and you fly them around the office or, fly them around your house and stuff. So some guys at work got some of those. I'm like, I bought a couple of, I bought the copters over that big. So I bought a couple of those, and then silly, just like nowadays I tell people not to do, but I bought a F-18 ducted fan jet and everything, which was impossible to fly at the time at the skill level, because I'd never flown anything, that, and just proceeded to crash that.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, because I only bring that up because I had some LiPo batteries die on me recently, and you just brought them back to life. I was just because of your knowledge with, the electrical, but also this RC hobby of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Lithium polymer batteries are what we call LiPos. That's the mainstream battery in the RC world, and
right, which they are not in the filmmaking world, nor should they be.
No, I know. I was surprised.
I was
surprised to find them in there.
Batteries?
Yeah, they're so bad. They're great. They last a really long time for the stuff that I have powered by them.
Yeah,
but they're so finicky.
Yeah,
it drives me nuts.
That particular product, I don't think they did as good a job as they could.
No, they did.
Given that they're using a LiPo battery, they could have done a better job to package it and make you, the user, understand what you're doing better.
Yeah. Message to Movi. Fix your dang batteries.
Yes, fix your battery.
Give me a charger that keeps them where they should be.
The meter is not correct, Movi. It's wrong.
There's 4 dots on these batteries, which anybody who's anybody says, 4 dots is full, 1 dot is almost dead. But it's
one dot. You think 1 dot's a quarter tank, quarter, half, 3/4 full,
With LiPos, they have to stay at 2 dots. They have to live 50%.
Well,
right?
on that one, the dots really should have been relative to where you want to stop using the LiPo, but the one we took apart, it was really 2 dots.
Yeah,
so it's a little misleading. You think you can run it down to 1 dot, but that wasn't working well for that battery.
Oh, so stupid. I have more to give you, by the way. Don't leave without those.
Okay.
You were able to fix them?
Yep. Well, I had to.
That's what I'm saying.
I took it apart. I took it apart and then jump started it a little. And
he just knows this crap, and I just don't know how you know all this stuff.
The defib. It's like, poop.
That's awesome. He resurrected my Movi
defibrillated the batteries.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, go. Sorry, I had to take a quick left turn there before I forgot.
That's all right. I'm glad he was able to repair and save some of those batteries.
Have you used that one though?
No, I haven't used it yet.
Okay, well,
but I also spent.
Don't discharge it too far down.
$400 on new ones too. So
be careful with those.
Yeah, I talked to the company. They're just like, throw them away, buy new ones. I was like, what? And then he brought them back to life. Stoked.
Awesome.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah.
Where do you get inspiration or motivation for light design?
Ooh. Some of it comes from the event itself, obviously. So it depends on whether it's a theatrical thing or, music or that type of thing. The music ones are pretty easy once you understand if it's a new style of music. Like I just did a festival earlier this summer, and I really wasn't familiar with that style of music, and it took me a little while to get in the hang of it, but they're two very, very different beasts too. Because if you're doing like we did the Christmas Spectaculars or a theatrical event, that's a lot of pre-production, a lot of planning and stuff. And so there's lots of time to think about it and try things and work with other people on the team to come up with creative ideas. Because some of it may be you're lighting something else, maybe a set piece or something. And so there's interaction there between fellow designers on the team. And some of it's just, you just got to think about it and ruminate about it and look at. I read a couple different trade magazines, so if there's people out there looking for stuff, my favorite one's PLSN, Production Lighting and Stage News, and so it's a great magazine, and they have good online presence, and they have book sources. So I've gone through lots of books and things like that.
What do you enjoy more? The planned months of I know exactly how I'm going to do this, or walking in and just playing as you go?
Ooh, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So the one day festival is great because it's over in one day, no matter how bad it goes.
It's behind you, sure.
No matter how good or bad, it's And the more larger productions are great because now you have the time to work things out and really build some things that really are fun or neat or creative and stuff. Like I go back to spectaculars because we've obviously put a lot of energy and time and creative energy into those, and played with lots of different things and stuff. And so those are fun too. Yeah.
Where did you learn to busk, play the instrument, so to speak?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. Just by doing. It was the first couple of events, and not so much these days, but there's a great online forum called the Light Network, and it's a little slower these days than it used to be. But on the Light Network, there's lots of chatter and talk and banter about stuff like that. And hey, what do you do? And how do you do this? And so early on, you're picking up a lot of stuff from those guys. Michael at Darkstar helped me understand a lot of stuff about, in that type of business early on, what they're looking for. That's of course paramount, where in something like that, you're, what does the client want? What is the client looking for? Right. Early on, I don't remember who I got it from. It might have been Michael, but the saying is light the money. So, and literally, because if, you have an artist on stage, let's say an individual artist in the band or whatever, and so if the light is supposed to be on them literally, but also figuratively, then you want to make sure that, you don't ever mess that up. And a corporate is a good one. So the speakers up, standing up at the lectern, you want to make sure the lights, when they, they're never in the dark up there, to the point where on our consoles, when you set up a console for these one-off events, the usual rigor is to put white tape on there and write all over it, because you need it to be big, because you're going to it. It's not something you do all the time. So if like at church at our setup there that you're running week after week after week, you get muscle memory to reaching and grabbing for things. But in a one-off event, you built it that afternoon, literally. You brought the rig in, you had some lunch, and then everything's working by maybe 1 o'clock, hopefully, and then you're going to sit there and build that instrument. And so it's nothing. There's no muscle memory. You don't remembering anything. So you write all over the white 2-inch white gaff tape, and you're writing on there. Well, on those corporate events, I'd always the fader, the most important fader, like the money one, the lectern light, I'd put all the way to the left, and I put 2 big dollar signs on the.
Yeah, well, not to mention the other thing with light is it matters so much about how you pair or daisy chain lights together and all that stuff, yeah. Just to know, like, it's all like there's numbers and all sorts of stuff. It gets real confusing real fast.
Yeah. Well, as confusing as your Dante is, right, on the audio side, right?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Right. You just learn to know it, right?
Yeah. And all this stuff, for anyone who wanted to get into this stuff, you start learning some of it, and you're going to keep building and building and building and building. And so right now, if I had to walk you through a typical, setup, a complex setup, even the one at the church, it's not that complex. It's a little overwhelming at first, because you're trying to learn all of it in one conversation. Yeah.
So how much of your time now do you devote to learning and progressing that, versus do you just I don't know.
Well, so reading magazines and keeping an eye on things. I'm always, just watching. There's tons of new products coming out, especially on the fixture side. Yeah. New fixtures just continually coming out. Most fixtures are just newer, better versions of previous ones. So there's nothing really to learn there per se. In recent years, though, there's been some new fixtures coming out. They're hybrid fixtures, or they're a dual fixture, like 2 fixtures in one. So we have some LED lighting here, but some of the new fixtures, and Darkstar just got a new set of ones that do this, where you have the center part of the fixture with all these LEDs that are providing the wash light coming out, but then there's a ring of other ones that you can control separately, but they're not for projecting or putting light down on anybody or any surface. They're for eye candy. We call it eye candy. So the lighting we do, that's not so that I can see you and so that you look 3-dimensional on stage and not 2D. The other lighting that's just makes everything look cool, eye candy lighting. So there's this style of fixture now like those, and been out for a while actually, but it's a dual fixture. So it does two purposes. You put it upstage so it would be behind us, with the camera over here, and it provides some eye candy besides putting light down onto the stage. And so that gets from the lighting programmer side now, it's a double thing to think about now. It's like, okay, I'm controlling that fixture, but yet on my console, it's two separate fixtures really, but it's one physical fixture,
Is that because you want to provide like a colored backlighting, or is that because you can see the fixture? So because
you see it, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the fixture is hung in such a way and in position that I'm looking at it.
So it's not necessarily the light it's providing, but the aesthetic that the light itself is, right?
A good example would be in a theater setting. It would not be up hidden behind the draperies. It would be purposely down where you can see it. Yeah. Yep. And so if we go watch something like American Idol, so you think you can dance type of shows, that are very production heavy, and you see, all the background to all the for video for you guys, all that background has something in it. And so it used to be it was set pieces that were lit, lights put onto set pieces. But a number of years ago, you started seeing fixtures dedicated to, they're in the face of the camera.
Yep. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Ever since I became a little more aware of production, American Idol or like America's Got Talent like boggles my mind. Like for instance, like the America's Got Talent gigs where like they have the dudes with the light up suits and they do dances, all that stuff. I'm how on earth do they do that?
Yeah.
Like I literally don't know how they could cooperate without a rehearsal unless they have a rehearsal.
Oh, they rehearse for sure.
And we're just all being fooled. Like,
well, I mean, it's a dance, right? So they've choreographed not only the physical movements, I would assume, right? They have to choreograph that, but now they've had to choreograph the layer of technology on top of the dance. They've married the two together. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. Just like as a production team, like these guys who work for like those shows, just got to be like, oh, we got who coming in?
Well, and so I over the years I've had the fortune to work with I'll say directors or creative people who have the visions to put stuff together. So like you asked earlier, where do I get creative? How do I get creative ideas? Well, when you're working with someone who says, okay, I got this vision to do this or that or whatever, and we may not end up doing that because as you start to marry the realities of the technology with it, they have to work together. But, working with those people is great because, they have a vision for something that you get to work with and, bring it to fruition.
And the gear, so you're like, no, we can't do it that way because they'll look flat or whatever. But I know if we put the light over here, then we can bounce that over there.
Or can we do it this way? Or, what's available for technology. And there may be technology that's available to do it just the way we want, but budget can't make it, come together. So we have to do it a different way.
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny because like, I feel like light, and you've mentioned this to me before, light is often overlooked. Mm-hmm. However, in production, in video production especially, light is the most important part of what we do.
Yeah.
Like literally the most important part. Like, for instance, this setup right here drives me crazy because it's technically wrong.
Yeah.
Like the light versus where the cameras are, the light should be over here.
Yeah.
But the room doesn't allow for it, so we do the best we can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like light
we're doing 3 cameras, right?
3 cameras.
Yeah. So we're shooting from 3 different directions too, which now makes it even more complex.
Yeah, but it's like, one of the most basic rules of filmmaking is shoot from the shadow side. Well, I'm shooting from the not shadow side. So we look flat. You know what I mean? But
well, we just got to raise the ceiling up a couple feet.
Yeah, I know. We just have to raise the ceiling, move this away. Like we should be like 4 feet that way off the wall and all this stuff. But whatever.
We can sit on the floor. That's what we can do.
Yeah, you do what you can. But light is so incredibly important because now, like for me, being a filmmaker and a geek, like light, just like every other part of production, is a storytelling tool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep. Definitely.
So talk to me about that side of it, because we've talked about the creative side of it, which that to me feels like some of the light movement, the colors you use, but also tell me about how choosing those, the light colors, the light movement, all that stuff can contribute to a story.
Yeah. Well, for the obvious thing, I mean, it may not be obvious most of the time when we see it, but how we use light puts the focus where we want it. You see this especially in like musical or play or things like that, where the lighting is done. I wouldn't say so subtly. It's purposely done so that you don't see a lot of the cue changes, but unconsciously your eye is drawn in different directions, and maybe the use of the follow spot with a soft focus on it, so there's not that hard edge of it, and it's highlighting a character, but you don't even realize that they have the follow spot on that character. Just subconsciously, that character's just a little more lit than the other ones on the stage, and so we put the focus where we want it. With lighting used carefully like that. Color selection, some of the obvious things come to mind where, warmer tones are gonna invoke classically, like, just a more excited look, a more upbeat look, and the cooler tones, especially when you get to the darker blues and stuff, are going to be more subdued and just have that type of effect on you.
Yeah. Andy, you got something for us?
If you're speaking to somebody who is in high school now and they're getting into the theater program and they're like, this is really cool. They're geeking out about lights, and now that there's so much digital, like the realm of opportunity is bigger. What would a career path look to get into theatrical lighting?
Yep. Or just lighting in general. So I think of it as production work, any kind of production work. Depending on the school and what the school offers. So in our area here, we have a number of schools that have decent programs and decent setups to play with. Because obviously what equipment they have and what they offer and then what they do with it matters a lot. If their program is doing decent productions during the year, then they should get involved with that if they're interested. There's also work happening locally. So depending on the age of the person and their availability to get out and try their hand at doing stuff, there's no shortage of need for people to help on productions. And in the beginning, you're just helping get the stuff in and set up and working. But as we talked about, all the layers of stuff to learn, that's where it starts. What does it take to just hang stuff and get power to it and data to it, and then the more you get comfortable with that, then you have time on the load-ins and during the production to start learning the other stuff.
Is there a college class that is out there that people could go to for this sort of thing, or is really just getting your boots on the behind the stage and getting experience the really key way to learn? So
there's both avenues. There's lots of theater arts programs available at a lot of your traditional colleges, from UVM to Castleton. I'm not familiar with the programs in the area that specifically, but I know, I'm pretty sure UVM, Castleton, is it Johnson has had a program. So there's programs within colleges that are not necessarily specific to that type of stuff. And then in our country, there are schools dedicated specifically to performance arts. And when I say performance arts, all the disciplines of the performance arts, whether it be, from makeup to the technical stuff to acting and those types of things. And so there's a number of schools that are available if someone wanted to pursue it that way. So there's the school of degree and the school of hard knocks, I guess. Yeah. Yep. And you know what? There's especially this industry, there is no shortage of extremely successful people in the performance arts industry, people who have been through it for many years and have already retired from it, who never went to a traditional school. They learned it by doing it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's certainly, especially on the technical side, and especially if you're involving in a type of technical part of the electricity, let's say, so when we do these shows and we load in at some of these spaces, we're hands on with some pretty big power and electricity type stuff, for lack of a better term. So you do need some formal training on that side to understand what you're doing. Yep.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah, what do I want to do when I grow up?
What do
Play.
you-
I just want to play.
So like, I mean, what is your future look like with this? Like, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to just be a thing you do, a hobby? Like, what's the idea?
Yeah. So what do I want to do? I'll definitely want to continue to do lighting and production work. It's fun to do. It keeps me young. It's creative. You know, I like doing it. It's and there's always new technology coming in. I'm just right now just talking with Darkstar about some new stuff that's coming in and some other new stuff that they may want to get. There's new console coming in. Grand MA. I wore this. Grand MA had just put out the Grand MA3 right around a little before the pandemic, so that's kind of slowed down my opportunities to get my hands on that console. They have one in town, so there's always new technology to play with and learn. And I like doing the shows and the creative side of it.
It's just fun.
It's fun. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Do you do this kind of freelance on your own, or are all the gigs you're on part of the production crew that you work with?
Say that again. What?
Do you do freelance lighting projects, like just
Just
individually
me?
yourself, or are they all with Darkstar?
Not usually. I mean, there's an occasional thing where someone says, "Oh, I need help with this." You know, over the years, it hasn't been any lately, but there's been theaters in the area or something that say that
Consulting
somehow
sort of
get my
stuff.
name, and you know they want some help with something's not working. Is a classic one. You know, something broke or they don't know how to troubleshoot it or something. So that's something. But usually, a lot of times, it's either work we're doing at church on production type stuff, or just ongoing things, or it's events with Darkstar type stuff. Yep.
You were obviously very passionate about performances from early on. Why did you decide not to go full-time and keep it a part-time side thing?
It's a difficult industry to support a family on, and schedule-wise too. It's not a 9-to-5 schedule at all. You're typically working at times when other people aren't working. You're busy. You're obviously more busy on the weekends than you are the weekdays, because that's usually when events happen. So that's when the animation work got a lot of that out of my system. So.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good
Burned
point.
it out early.
Well, that's a good point.
A good. It's a not unheard of schedule was like the later Baines we were doing over at Mount Washington. That Thursday night, DJ would go to 1:00, and then we would load out, and we'd be finishing loading trucks around 4:35 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
So
I remember that. I would always say, "See you later. I'm going to bed." And you'll be like, "All right, we're going to start loading out." Yeah.
I'll come knock on your door at 5 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. You guys were often home before I would, I'd even get up in the morning to drive home. So
Yeah, that was the deal. Is video crew also had to help with loadout for everything.
yeah,
We could pack up and be out of there in an hour, but
Yeah.
and I was.
Yeah. So schedule wise, and it was, it just worked out better for me for the past years to, have the regular job and then play around on the side.
is that a viable option for somebody else like you to just do this part-time and work with production crews, or is the production crew really looking for like a full-time person?
So companies in town like that because there's other people around that do production work or parts of it, they're always looking for full-time people. But what a lot of production companies do, and Darkstar does this as well, is you have your core team of people, and then there's a lot of people like myself. We're called overhires. So during the times of the year or weekends of the year where things naturally tend to be really busy, there's just times of the year where everybody wants to have their event on that weekend. And so there's lots of guys like me who, we're coming in when things are busy and helping out and doing our part, I've actually, the guy I worked with who hired me at Advanced Animations lives in town, and he does overhire with Darkstar.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's, so I specialize in lighting, and I try to make sure that I know everything I need to know and can hold my own in that area. And so that's what I try to bring to the table is, that part of the production, I can say, I'll take care of this. You can worry about other stuff. And,
right. Yeah, that's important. Anything else we want to talk about from either of you?
I got one more question. What's your favorite type of event to light?
Ooh, yeah, you kind of touched on that earlier, didn't you? Well, it depends. So festivals are fun. It depends on the festival. Obviously, if you end up out in the rain because it ends up raining because it's an outdoor event, then you're not having a lot of fun. So
indoor gigs.
So there's been lots of festivals that just ended up with you're sitting out in a tent on a beautiful day with food and it's a blast. And just music and playing with the lights and getting paid to be there. So those are great. The big events with a lot of the pre-production, I do enjoy those a lot, like the spectaculars we did. Those are good examples because you're bringing together a ton of fun stuff into 1 hour and 15-minute show, or production. And so that's a lot of fun too. So, we in some of those, we were doing confetti, pyro, fog on the ground, haze in the air, and plus a ton of other lighting effects and things.
Special effects.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up or share with maybe somebody who's new to the industry?
Definitely get engaged somewhere, find some productions to get involved in and see what you like. Like I said, I keep saying audio, video, lighting. There's not just lighting. There's other things going on, and what aspect of it you like, because there's so many different ways to do it. And so our area here is kind of small and nichey, in Vermont here. We're a small market, so there's lots of other stuff happening out in other parts of the country to do, and much, much bigger platforms going on. So get involved, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm satisfied.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Fun. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. It was good to finally just to nerd out for an hour.
Yes.
Talk about lighting.
Yeah.
So,
and the fun stuff we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fun stuff that we will do, which I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the future.
Definitely.
We're going to make cool stuff happen.
Always.
Andy, bring us home. I forgot how we end these things.
It's usually an awkward ending. We don't have a good one. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Give us a review. Hey, we haven't ever requested that, I don't think. So
nope, we haven't.
Go sure to subscribe and share it with a friend. That's probably the most important thing you can do. Is if this was entertaining, share it with somebody else. So thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Cam.
Good talk. Goodbye.